Are you guys hungry? Help yourself to anything you see.
The morning of day 3 is a contrast in camping styles.
It is funny to see the different styles of camping because we've done a lot of backpacking, so since we've had to carry all our stuff on our back, we're very minimalist. And then there's the 4-course meal. It's amazing.
Sweet peppers, yes. I thought that we were going to add
Where's her bread?
salmon.
Doug Alderson is leading a 3-day hike of public lands around the Apalachicola River.
Some of us have hiked part of the Appalachian Trail. I've hiked the whole thing, and Jill's hiked most of it. Brandon's hiked some of it in the south. So this felt like hiking the Appalachian Trail the last 2 days.
Apalachicola is a town with a flavor all its own. A lot of that flavor comes from the river and bay that share its name. Over the last couple of years, I've tried to get a sense of this by exploring the river on the RiverTrek paddles. But there's only so much you can see from inside of a kayak.
When you're kayaking the river, you're on this blue ribbon and you see the shore, but you don't realize when you're kayaking it that this floodplain will go sometimes a couple miles in either direction. So this type of walk helps you appreciate how wide this floodplain is and how it contributes to the whole system.
On day 1, they bushwhacked the Torreya State Park, including some familiar spots.
And we hit Means Creek, which we visited on the RiverTrek.
Yeah.
Visited the cave.
Right.
Hiked up here, then started doing cross country again, and came out somewhere in here.
Right.
And we did had to do the road walk because there's a gap of private land.
Right.
On day 2, they went to the Nature Conservancy's Bluffs and Ravines Preserve. I hiked there with Todd Engstrom last fall.
We started doing the steepheads through here, and then we kept going, and we ended up a little farther south through the floodplain along here, then hiked up Ellen Bluff and ended about right there on Ellen Bluff. The beautiful view.
We walked fast and hard yesterday.
Lots of terrain, lots of ups and downs. You didn't often think you were in Florida anymore. So many of the vistas looked like North Carolina or the North Georgia mountains. It was really, really amazing. And some strenuous hiking, unlike I've experienced in Florida.
Todd led us on the 3rd day of hiking.
We are on the bank of the Florida River, which is sort of a tributary or a slough or a part of the Apalachicola River system. And we walked out into the floodplain that is owned by the Northwest Florida Water Management District.
Step on that big vine.
What we were doing today was exploring some of the same territory that I was looking for the ivory-billed years ago.
The ivory-billed woodpecker has likely been extinct for decades. When there was a possible sighting a few years ago, the Apalachicola Basin was thought to be a favorable habitat. Todd was sent to look for signs of the bird.
There were no ivory-billed out there, but had an awful good time looking for them. Even if we crossed here, we could probably get over that next one, but I know
it's going to keep doing that.
The fullness of sloughs dictated our path.
When I was doing that search, I found patches of forest that I thought had never been cut. They appeared that way to me. They weren't big patches, but they were just patches of some pretty big trees that had characteristics of old growth. I thought that I could take the group and we could find those again, but there's so much water that we were not able to get across the sloughs back to those patches.
I'm not a scientist, but the scientists tell us that if this floodplain didn't flood and they didn't fill up these sloughs in the floodplain, the nutrients wouldn't feed Apalachicola Bay and all the life there, the oysters on up to the other sea life.
As we learned on RiverTrek 2012, sloughs are how the river feeds the floodplain.
The most common aquatic habitat are sloughs. We have hundreds of them. The river channel is about 107 miles long, and the number of miles of channels, other channels in the floodplain, is 400 and something miles. So when you're talking about fish habitat, they really like these woody banks and all of the woody debris that the invertebrates live on, and that's what they feed on, and they can hide in those to escape from predation. All these banks, both sides of all that 400 miles of streams, is a very, very important habitat for fish if it can be connected to the main channel, and if the main channel is high enough to connect it.
Typically,
the sloughs would keep the backwater swamps wet year-round. But in the last 2 droughts, some of the backwater swamps that historically have never gone dry actually dried out, and that's where we start to lose some of our species diversity. It's when places that have never been dry before are dry for months on end.
You know, the water wars needs to be front and center because it affects the whole ecosystem, but also we need to appreciate these beautiful lands, the biodiversity here. Part of this walk helps people appreciate this whole system. If you don't see it, you don't feel it, you don't love it, and you won't care as much about it.
Taking the existing trails they hiked and connecting them would make a destination trail that could attract more visitors to the area.
People started thinking of this area as just the hiking mecca of North Florida, which it already is in many ways, but people think of it more as day hikes. But this would be, you know, a 25-mile trail, and it's pretty rugged. I mean, it's up and down and so forth. So that's a good 3-day trip, and that's the destination type thing. Plus you can camp, you can see other sites in the area. So I think it would definitely open up more opportunities for ecotourism in this area if you had a longer trail.
Doug led his group to Torreya State Park, the Nature Conservancy's Apalachicola Bluffs and Ravines Preserve, and land owned by the Northwest Florida Water Management District. For more information about hiking these lands, visit the websites on your screen. And for more videos on the Apalachicola River and Bay, as well as the other wild places of our area, visit wfsu.org/ecologyblog. For WFSU, I'm Rob Diaz de Villegas.